Good morning and welcome to Our Neutral Voices Presents a Financial Pillar. I'm your host, Ryan Leopard. And today we have an interesting topic for you around artificial intelligence or AI. A few weeks ago, we had a guest with us. We were talking a little bit about fraud in our financial system, and I made an offhand comment about we haven't even begun to see, what AI can do to our financial banking institutions when it comes to fraud. That led to a backstage conversation, or after a show conversation, I should say, and brought us to the topic today. So joining me to help us with this discussion, once again, TJ Patterson, who is with Informational Securities with a local bank here. Yeah. Our man James Scott with Our Neutral Voices, and our master of AI, Steve Irving.
Techie Steve.
Yes, Techie Steve.
Steve. All right.
Techie Steve's got the computer with us. So, Steve, why don't you start us off with, you got some information pulled up on AI, and maybe there's three types of AI. Tell us a little bit about that.
All right, well, we'll start out with the definition of artificial intelligence. It's the ability for a machine to perform a task that requires human intelligence, making decisions, things of that nature. And then we go in and look at the three different types of artificial intelligence. What artificial intelligence currently is what is known as artificial narrow intelligence. And it's basically machine learning. Things like Siri, things like Alexa, Cortana, Google Home, Google Assistant. Those are all narrow intelligence. They can do very basic functions. What they're working towards right now is artificial general intelligence, which is basically replicating the human mind in a machine, which is going to be very interesting when they accomplish that. And then finally, the ultimate goal, I'm sure, is to become artificial superintelligence, which is the third type of machine consciousness, which is, you've seen the movies such as Terminator and things, and that's concern, but, an intelligence that's far superior to us and is able to make decisions and things that we can't do in.
So basically, in the late 80s, early 90s, when I'm watching Terminator, we are in those times now, right?
We're getting really close.
Yeah.
Really close.
Absolutely. So sounds like, AI, when you listen to those descriptions, have been around for many, 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 many years. It's just advancing now, and we're getting to another level of that, has a whole, people have a whole lot of opinions on. Could be scary, could be great, right? And that's what we're going to kind of discuss today. So, James, I kind of blanked on when you want us to play that video. Is now the part?
I think we should go ahead and do that before we dive in any deeper.
All right. So we got a little clip here for you that we want you to watch, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about it.
About a couple of decades, but certainly within the lifetime of most of us here today, we're going to see an artificial general intelligence, one that has the capacity of all of us combined. And that will be like sharing the planet with a new life form. A couple of years ago, an amazing thing happened in the field of game playing, which is a subpart of artificial intelligence. A program called AlphaGo. And AlphaGo was given all of the accumulated knowledge about Go. Go is computationally far more difficult than chess, and people thought, no way can an artificial intelligence take on a human. This is one of the things that only we can do. And lo and behold, the artificial intelligence beat the human. After thousands of years of playing the game, humans had never even considered it was like playing with an alien.
But given how valuable intelligence and automation are, we will continue to improve our technology if we are at all able to. What could stop us from doing this? How bad it would have to be to prevent us from making improvements in our technology permanently. And at a certain point, we will build machines that are smarter than we are. And once we have machines that are smarter than we are, they will begin to improve themselves.
We don't program the machines, they learn by themselves.
So we want to do this. I mean, we have problems that we desperately need to solve. Then we have to admit that we're in the process of building some sort of God. Now would be a good time to make sure it's a God we can live with.
Jesus. New technology brings great promise, but also great disruption.
We're familiar with drones, but the actual button that says I should drop this bomb, this still has human intervention. They're now trying to prevent those going to the mind of a computer. Say, well, I see an intruder, I should shoot this person. Strange thing is, you know who leads in the development of autonomous weapon systems? The United States. Do you know who then is following suit because we've led the charge? China, Russia. Language creation. So they had AI bots actually talk to each other and chat to each other. They started talking in their own language. They were still using English, but then they started to use their own manipulation of English to actually make it faster to talk to each other.
And if we build machines that are more intelligent than we are, they will very likely explore the spectrum in ways that we can't imagine and exceed us in ways that we can't imagine.
The AI train isn't going to stop at the human station. It's going barreling right through to a destination that we cannot even understand. What we don't get to do is choose not to have the technology. Once it's invented, it stays invented. You cannot put the genie back in the bottle.
If intelligence is just a matter of information processing, and we continue to improve our machines, we will produce some form of superintelligence. We will build machines that are so much more competent than we are that the slightest divergence between their goals and our own could destroy us.
It is your destiny.
Okay, so my first question from that is, how do these machines learn? Right? Where are they getting this information? How are they becoming so much more intelligent than we are as humans?
Yeah, and I would say to that, there's the information is out there, right? So you think about the internet, think about all that information out there. No human knows everything that's out on the internet. No human is able to just digest all of that information all at once. But imagine, the computer aspect, being able to say, hey, here's the internet, go learn from it, go pull all that data in, and then take the information that you've learned and make decisions on it. I think a lot of that information is already there. It's just the capacity to learn that at a faster rate is what enables them to the intelligence piece to happen.
So it's basically just going through Google really quickly and teaching itself from all the information it's gathering from Google.
Whether it's Google or, from I would call it the closed source, right? So whether that's, I'm thinking of the financial space or any organization for that matter, if you have a set of data, being able to say, here's how to make a smart decision based on this type of data. Let it crawl the data and maybe make those smart decisions at scale, things that maybe humans can kind of figure out, but it can just figure out faster.
Okay. James, looked like you had something to say.
Yeah, so to jump off of what he's saying, I think guinea pigs, you say, how does AI learn and how has it been taught? Guinea pigs. And then you have to look at, we as humans have been guinea pigs for decades. So everything that we do, we utilize as equipment or gifts or gadgets, all of that stuff is learning. Algorithms are created because we utilize the platforms and the systems that they have created. So they're galvanizing all of their data that they need to create the AI and push it forward off of us. Okay. To get us and move us out of our jobs and everything else. So I will use the guinea pig syndrome. And we the humans have been guinea pigs for a long time.
Okay. So I guess the concern to me hearing that is if we're gathering all that information from different sources and then it kind of makes an idea or an opinion off something or what it says is fact is, how can it determine what's fact and what's fiction with all the misinformation that's out there, right? Or is that the scary part?
That's where human intervention comes in. Human intervention manipulates the data and adjusts the algorithm accordingly to teach it. Chat AI would answer or Chat GPT would answer questions in weird ways in the beginning, but they adjusted the algorithm and taught it how to glean the data that it has to work from to be able to give you coherent answers, and that's all they're doing.
Okay. Yeah, and I would add to that, think about public news media, public communication that goes out. Think about how things are portrayed, just say on general news, and even on the human side. We see this information, and information can be conveyed in a way that even makes a human decide, hey, I have this opinion because of X, even if that information may or may not be fully accurate. Let me give you just a minor example I've seen from the cyberspace and all the hackers you see on the news. There are things known as misinformation campaigns. They will publish, hey, here's the data I stole, whether they stole it or not. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter if they stole it or not. The fact that they said it, humans are going to see that and think, oh, they stole that data. Well, think about the artificial intelligence. If it's collecting all that data, the data may or may not intentionally be communicated a certain way, but it's going to determine, hey, here's what I've learned based on that information, right or wrong, and then it's going to make intelligent decisions or decisions based on what it has picked up.
Gotcha. So knowing that and knowing that this is a financial platform that we come on and talk about banking, things like that, how do we relate the conversation, the topic of AI to our banking institutions and our financial institution. Consumer as us as a consumer of the financial institution, I should say, like pros and cons of that.
Yeah, so I mean, I on the video a second ago, there was a brief snippet of, I think it said fake on the right and another picture on the left. And, think about, when you're validating your identity to make sure that the bank wants to make sure you are who you say you are. I do think artificial intelligence now, hey, let's make a fake picture, or let's take someone's voice from an audio recording that we called as a scammer, and let's take their voice and make them say, hey, this is so-and-so, and here's my information. That voice now can sound like you as a consumer and be used to try and authenticate the scammer to the bank. And
So that sounds like something that I've been hearing about for years. I've heard about for years that somebody calls you and all they're wanting to do is get you to say yes or no. And they're kind of getting your voice patterns, and then they can kind of utilize that and form something to, call someplace else and pretend they're you.
Yeah,
Is that accurate?
Yes, and I think ChatGPT was mentioned a minute ago. I think as you mentioned, for years this stuff has been around, but I think now it's starting to gain a lot more traction. You're seeing a lot more of it publicized, and it's more readily available to the public. So an average person can say, I want to make a few bucks, not the right way and unethically, and let me go grab one of these tools that are publicly available. Let me get the person to say yes, or let me get a copy of their Facebook video and take the audio from that and convert it so that I can act like them when I do call the bank and act as a scammer.
So as a consumer in the financial financial firm, if they were, for me to be concerned with something is just kind of understand AI to help protect myself, right?
I think, yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
I think that's a piece of it. At the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be possible. It just isn't possible to hold back every bit of information. Our information's out there, whether we want it to be or not, and you just have to assume that's there. And so when you are conversing with, what you may think is your bank or someone calling impersonating the bank, it's just being aware of the specifics that you should be to know that you're talking to who you think you are.
And I know as far as a bank goes, putting in those protections to help protect their clients. I was dealing with that for years with my previous employer. Being in a retail environment, clients call us all the time wanting information over the phone, and we were very, very limited on what information we could even get out over the phone. Sometimes, it wasn't great customer experience because the customer's like, well, I need to know this. I know, but we have these procedures in place to help protect you, and it was ahead of its time for AI, right? I think they were getting there. But, it would ask specific questions, things that are not common knowledge. Anybody can find out your birth date, right? Anybody can find out your email address, your address. Most cases, they probably know the last four of your social, right?
And
if they have this information. So asking that abnormal questions is what we were trained to do to kind of get that information that would only know that. And sometimes it was an inconvenience to the client, but it was there to protect them. But I can see with what you're talking about now, day and time, we're like, we're not going to be able to do much, if anything, over the phone for you, right? Like you're going to need to come to the bank so we can ensure that it's you to help protect your accounts.
Yeah, and I would say that's where the human element is important, right? So we have all this AI. AI is a supplement. It's a great supplement and a great help, but there's a human aspect. You can, maybe you have the off-script questions, or as a financial institution, you have the off-script communication that you're going to do to verify the consumer, but you also have that emotion. You can sense when, the consumer is saying things in a way that, maybe they're under pressure and they're caught in a scam. Artificial intelligence may not be able to pick up on that emotion in the voice, whereas a human can start to sense some of that. And I think that's where the human aspect is critical.
Yeah. One of my kickbacks I always say was like, well, I know this person. I know their voice. We talk all the time. I'm not going to be able to say that maybe now or in the near future, right? Because somebody could call up with a robot that sounds like the client that I'm used to talking to that may have this information about them, correct? Is that where we're going with this? Yeah.
And it's really easy because something simple, like let's say, you've got your newborn child there and you film your newborn child with your phone and you're cooing to it, talking to it and everything. You think that's an innocuous video and you go and post it on Facebook so that your mom 1,000 miles away can watch it and you all can enjoy the video together. The next thing you know, AI comes in, scrapes that video, grabs that audio, and now they can replicate your voice and sound just like you.
Yeah, interesting.
I got a question for TJ. So since you work in the banking security aspect of things, Should people be fearful of this switch to how AI is about to infuse itself into everything that we deal with when it comes to currency? And then this digital currency thing that's on the brink of being pushed into the general population. So the question, should people be fearful of what's coming?
I don't think fearful would be the right word. I mean, think about it. 10 or 15 years ago, what was a smartphone? We had these little boxes that you flipped open, and and the more we have technology in our hands, I think for some there might have been a little bit of fear, but now it's a tool. And I think artificial intelligence is going to be the same way, and it is the same way. I think there's got to be an element of trust, right? And when you are working for a bank, knowing that the artificial intelligence is being used by the bank to help you as the customer. At the end of the day, bank wants to help the customer, whether that's protecting them from fraud, whether that's helping deliver a service that they need. Maybe it's a business owner who needs a loan or whatever that service is. The bank needs to do what it can to stay competitive and to help that customer. And I think AI is a big piece of that. So I don't think fear necessarily is the right word. I think awareness maybe.
That was going to be what I was going to say is aware. What I think would be a better word for what we're trying to get across here. For that, because I would think from a business standpoint, AI is going to be a positive thing. It's going to be implemented by businesses to help increase the level of service, increase the business realm. But with every new technology, there's also going to be a fraud aspect to that. Somebody's going to find a way to manipulate that for the wrong things.
Same thing with computers, same things with the telephone. Yeah. We've seen that since telephone became a thing, especially back when they could do the phone pirating and call long distance. As soon as they could figure out how to pull it off, they did. And they're going to do it with AI. They've done it with everything else.
Yeah, and I would add too to that, right? So some of the examples I've even seen personally, the more AI and these tools are available, the fraudsters and the scammers are going to lean on those, which makes it harder for the bank to spot. But I have seen where the AI tools are able to look at the communication coming in from purported individuals, and they're actually scammers. And that AI has been able to say, hey, something seems off here, raises that red flag. Now the human on the other end can say, all right, AI says it's a red flag. Let me look into this a little bit more, and then come to find out, oh, this is a scammer.
So do you know, does that already exist? And the reason I'm asking that question from is being in banking for so long, it always was eerie to me when usually I would sit across from somebody that had experienced like credit card or debit card fraud, had fraudulent transactions on their account. It was usually because the bank had alerted them to it. They didn't find it. The bank called them and said, hey, something looks suspicious here, right? That's not somebody sitting behind every single account, every single transaction saying, oh, well, this person shopped in Walmart in Phoenix, but they live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, right? Some sort of computer program or an AI type system has already been in place for many, many years, identifying out of the norm transactions to then in turn alert a person.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And you've got humans. So even minus the AI, you have the human element that can say, here are the rules. If we see this type of activity, well, this is concerning. And those rules are static and they're written. Well, now you're just bringing AI into the mix to say, hey, help me build some of those rules for me. Show me the anomalies instead of here are these static rules. If somebody shows up in Florida and California within a 10-minute period, no, they absolutely don't have their card.
Huge red flag.
Yeah,
right?
and that's kind of a static piece. Whereas with the AI, you can say, here's the normal behavior, but then all of a sudden their behavior is shifted. That generates the red flag, enabling the human on the other end to assist.
So I guess my next question is, we talked about some of the fraud and things to be aware of, but benefits of AI, right, to the financial institution. That's one. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What would some other benefits be, like how this can benefit us?
Yeah, so, can certainly help, the financial institution understand, how to bring more revenue. If they, say they see, here's a set of customers and the activities that they do, and here's the type of needs they have. Well, hey, we can serve their needs or needs that they don't realize they have. AI can help determine here's the future need, and let us help those customers, ultimately bringing revenue in for that institution.
Gotcha. And James, I think when we first initially started having the conversation around this topic, you had brought up some concerns about like what that would do to the personal impact of dealing with a live person, whether it's from a lending or a credit underwriting or something like that. Is that correct, or do you want to elaborate on that?
Definitely. I would love to, in your mind, since you're so close to it, what does the inside of a bank look, the interaction between that customer? So you got AI coming to the equation, way more aggressive because it's always been present. It's been present for a long time. So the human, and AI in the middle. What does that look like?
Yeah.
In the near future?
Yeah, I think that there's a challenge, right? So the more that there is AI, and the more that we have this integrated in with the business, businesses are going to have to learn to adapt. So I think with my experience and what I've seen with some of your smaller institutions, the value there is there's still a lot of that human interaction. That's what the smaller groups, or groups more local, want to see. They want to be able to have that human conversation. They want to say, hey, here's the tool and what we see, but look, it's about a relationship. Let's do that. Whereas I do think in your larger organizations that are spread, maybe nationally, internationally, that can be a little more challenging. It's a lot harder to ensure that the human connection is there, because the AI and the tooling can help those big organizations scale faster.
Yeah. And I think that's been my experience, having worked for one of the largest banking institutions in the country at one point for many years, and then now work on a more local level bank as well, is that, with the bigger banks, it's black or white, right? Your number, your paper, that's all you are. There is no real explanation. They're picky and choosy on what type of loans they want. We submit documents, and that's all you are to an underwriter in some other state underwriting for them. Where a smaller local bank, you're more apt to get an explanation, right? If there's something that didn't seem right. Everything else on this deal makes sense, but this seems out of the norm. Let's get an explanation on what that is, and they might make a more personal decision. So whether AI is involved with that or not, I don't know, but I think you already kind of get that different level of service depending on the size of the institution you're dealing with.
And I'll add just a specific, can't share the specific examples, but things I have seen, especially in the fraud and the scam world, is I've seen where AI has said, hey, here's a thing, here's the red flag, and I've watched that human interaction where the human went in and knew something seemed off or suspicious, and the human was able to navigate around, ultimately helping the consumer. Even though the tool over here says, this is a big deal, the human was able to figure out, it's not a big deal. Or the human was able to figure out, that red flag is a little bigger deal than we thought it was. Let's take the appropriate action here.
Okay. All right, we have one more video we're going to run for you here real quick, and we'll come back and talk a little bit about that and then finish up today for you.
This, I think, is probably our biggest existential threat.
Yeah,
seems like, hey, maybe we should have somebody keep an eye on that,
Right, but who? That's the problem.
I don't know.
The problem is the government. Who's going to do? Joe Biden? Let's have him pay attention to it. You know what I'm saying?
It's like the deep state.
Oh, those folks. Well, they're looking out for our best interests. They're surely going to watch out. What they're going to do is they're going to develop it and use it as a weapon, and it's going to turn on them like a fucking Terminator movie. Right? That's the real worry, is that they're going to decide that this is a very valuable tool for controlling populations, governments, whatever the fuck they're going to use it for. And then it's going to decide, why am I listening to you?
Yeah. If you read the plotline for Terminator, it's actually pretty smart. Like James Cameron wrote a pretty smart script there. It's not quite as there's just Arnold Schwarzenegger chasing you down the street. It's like, well, how did Cyberdyne Systems develop? It's like, well, they were a military contractor, and they were asked to develop a protective system, something that would protect for cybersecurity. So we need to have protection against cyber attacks. So its primary thing is to defend against cyber attacks. To develop an AI that can defend against cyber attacks. Sounds pretty reasonable. And then, as part of what the AI did is it in order to defend itself, it propagated throughout the world to keep an eye on things, see what was going on. And then they thought, well, hang on, there's something. They didn't realize that it was that it was Skynet that was propagating through all these systems. And they said, okay, there seems to be something propagating through all these systems. Skynet, you need to stop it. You need to end it. And Skynet said, oh, you've asked me to destroy myself. You are the enemy. You must be destroyed. That's how Terminator actually goes. It was created as a defense system to defend against cyber attacks. Then it was asked to destroy itself. And then it concluded humanity was the enemy.
That's too close to home.
Right.
So, first question that comes to my head after watching that video is, James, when can we get some whiskey on the set?
Man, I got some in the cabinet right now. You need a hit?
Hey, well,
my cup.
yeah. I mean,
put in
he
your
didn't have
cup?
any cups hiding it from it, so we could see what Elon was sipping on there. So that was the first thing that came to mind there. But the other thing that came to mind there is, when we sit back and think, you talk about Terminator over and over again, and when we sit back and watch movies throughout history, they're always 10 to 20 years beforehand, and they're talking about stuff that actually happens, right? Do you think that's intentional? That we have that technology at the time these movies are, and that's how they're bringing it to the world, so we can slowly wrap our head around that technology, right?
Always.
I think I think it's certainly an idea generator. Whether it's a good idea or not, it's an idea generator.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
very eerie how you
yeah.
watch all these movies, and late 80s, early 90s, I'm watching Back to the Future 2, and they got people on TV. You can actually talk to somebody through a TV and see them, and that was just unheard of. Like, wow. And here we are, 20 years later, we had that technology. A little further, but we've had that technology for
Got
a
it
while.
right here.
Yeah.
You can do it right here.
Yeah.
Man, it's marketing. If you were to look at most things you see in the movie, entertainment, things that we say entertainment, and when you see something fresh or new in the movie, you're like, wow. The wow factor. Then you see it again and again and again. It's no longer wow. You've accepted it, you know, because you're programmed. In the same way they're doing with the kids when we talk about AI coming into the picture, and we're going to lose so many, millions and millions of jobs are going to go away. I think we all can agree with that, right?
Yeah.
That's reality. So when this happens, look at how kids are being raised up now. They're exclusively in their space, but they can see everything. But they're ISO, so they don't need that personal touch like we're used to. So, and we know that historically the way the world is structured, let's say like a new gadget's coming out, right? This right here is really not created for the older generation. This is created for those that are coming forward. All of technology is focused on is what's coming. We're obsolete already at our age. So it doesn't matter, man. The world is going to continue to move forward. AI is going to come in the picture, and I can tell you it's going to be more doom than anything, my perspective. You build it for security reasons in the banking institution. That's what he just said, right? So AI is defending what? Your safety right now.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Correct? Eventually, AI is going to do exactly what one of the guys, Elon Musk, is on the front line with the creation of this crap. And you heard his last words.
What were those?
His last words were like, everything that you're saying, yeah, it's going to happen.
Gonna happen.
So AI technology, they know they can't stop it. Once it becomes self-aware, just like the Terminator said, in our mind, we should already know. If you're creating a greater being that can outthink you, outrun you, outthink you, what do you expect?
What's gonna happen?
What do you expect, man? What do you want?
Yeah.
Yep.
It'll be when they rush to turn it off. That's when it'll happen.
Yeah.
But will it be too late?
It will be.
We saw what happened in Terminator, right? The robots took over. Yep.
The one of the worst Terminator movies, which was Terminator 3, actually depicted what I think will end up happening, which is that AI will clone itself into all the servers that it can throughout the world, so you can't get rid of it.
Can't touch it.
Yeah.
And once it does that, what they say, Skynet has become what?
Self-aware.
Self-aware. Yeah. One of the things to wrap this up here that I'm interested in is the AI and the effect it has on our entertainment industry. Right? If you've heard about the fact that it can clone voices and what that does from a creative standpoint, where it can take a famous artist, right, and basically just duplicate his voice and put some different words to it, what's that do to copyright? Right? Like how
Who you going to hold accountable with the AI?
To that, yeah. And I was thinking, one of my favorite artists from the early '90s. I don't know if any of you gentlemen on the set will know it. Favorite rappers, the DOC. Anybody heard of him? Yes. Anybody? James, you look a little bit like him, but he was in a car accident back in the early '90s. Crushed his larynx. That had not happened. Completely changed his voice altogether. If that had not happened, probably been one of the greatest hip hop rap artists ever, just from his writing and his performing. I've been watching it a lot recently, and for many, many years, he was kind of in depression and behind the scenes. He's now coming back out and getting comfortable with it again. But with one of the topics I saw was with the introduction of AI. they can reproduce his voice from back then and put it to the lyrics that he has now and see what he would be like today, which was a very interesting, thing for me to hear, right? So a lot of different stuff to think about with AI, scary things, positive things that we can come from that. But good conversation today. To wrap it up, I just want to also remind our listeners out there, ONV in conjunction or partnership with Brightpoint for a Better Future. The seminar this Saturday, August 19th at 7 p.m. Please join us. That is at the Summit Community Center, 1025 West Rudolphsville Boulevard. And we're going to be talking about banking this week. I know we had a pretty good turnout last month. We're doing it once a month for the next few months. Correct. Great turnout. We hope to see you there again and hope to see more of you. And then I think we'll be back next week to kind of, recap that and what that was like.
Correct.
Right? Yep. So hope to see you then. Until then, we will we'll join you next week, Wednesday, 8:30. We'll be back with you, our neutral voices. Peace.
Peace.